Okay. Hi, Britta. How are you?
Hi, it's good to be here.
Oh, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. So, normally at this point, I ask the guests to tell us about their book and tell us the title, but I think since it's so huge on your screen, most people are going to know what the title is, like other girls. Is this a story about you, about your growing up?
It's in many ways it is. It's a book about um a young teenage girl who has always felt like one of the guys who when she gets kicked off of her basketball team for getting in a fight, her coach tells her that the only way that she can play basketball again the following year is if she can prove she can play a team sport without fighting. And so she goes ahead and joins the football team. And she's pretty good at football. And it turns out the other guys sort of begrudgingly respect her. That they kind of have to, you know, give her the respect that she's due. She's pretty good at the sport. And then the next week, she's so inspirational that four more girls join the football team. And now she's just seen as one of the girls. They're looking to her as some sort of leader of this sort of, feminist political movement. And she's saying, oh, that's not what I intended. And the guys are looking to her like, what'd you do? Why'd you get all these girls to join our team? And she's like, oh, that's not what I intended. And so she feels a little trapped in the middle. For me, I was always kind of felt like one of the guys growing up. I did play football for a couple of years when I was younger, and there came a time in my football career where it just became clear that the guys didn't particularly want me there, and my friends who were girls didn't particularly understand or care what I was doing, and I realized that the only person who really wanted me to be playing football was me, and that was a very lonely experience. It really made me feel like kind of a freak at the time. So I kind of stopped playing football, but clearly I never stopped thinking about it because here we are, 15 years later, and I've written a book about what the experience might have been like.
How come there's never been any girls' football leagues? Or has there been?
There have been several. Yeah. In the 1970s, there was a thriving women's football league. Today, there's still women's semi-professional football. And today, more girls are playing football than ever, even as the numbers of boys playing football is on the decline. It is not rare for girls to take to the gridiron. In fact, it's happening in increasing numbers. So we've had the first woman play on a college Power Five football team, and I think it's only a matter of time before more women rise through college football and maybe even to the NFL. This is a book about girls who are not necessarily have their sights on the NFL. They just have their sights on, they just want to be taken seriously and they just want to play a game on Friday night and they just want to not be harassed while they do it. So this book has a much smaller scope than that.
Is there any difference in the rules between the women's football teams and the men's? Or is it just as, I don't want to use the word brutal, but I'll use the word brutal.
Yeah, yeah, football is an aggressive sport. It's also in many ways a very delicate sport, and I think maybe there are some football fans who might take issue with that. But if you ask football players, I think they would tell you that it's a very heady sport. A lot of it is in the strategy and the planning and the plays. Um, and a lot of football players benefit from taking yoga and ballet and getting very good with their footwork. So in some ways, football is a balancing of traditionally masculine roles and traditionally feminine roles. We, as fans, just don't like to see it that way. We see it as a very masculine sport, a very aggressive sport, a sport for like, built Ford tough, beer commercials and burgers. But if you actually look at what the sport entails, it takes a wide variety of skills to be good at football, not just aggression. And there's no reason that girls can't also be good at those skills.
Well, it's true, but even on a football team, you have different skill sets.
Yeah,
Your
for sure.
line are just kind of big, beefy men, women that were just going to block and tackle. But then you've got your runners on the ends, and the quarterback has to be pretty agile. So there is,
Yeah.
yeah, there is definitely different skill sets involved.
Yeah, and that's what's cool is that it requires a variety of different body types.
Yeah.
You'll hear people say that girls can't play football because they're not big enough or they're not strong enough. One of the things I tried to do in this book was there's 5 girls who join the football team and they all have different body types and they all have different skill sets. The main character, Mara, is 6'2". She's a big, brawny girl who grew up on a ranch. She is used to hauling things. She's used to using her body. She's a very physical person. She is in no way what you would describe as delicate. And so she thinks, there's no reason I shouldn't be able to play football. Her best friend Quinn is a guy. He's on the team, and he's a runner. He's a running back, and he's fast. And you give him the ball, he can find a hole, and his job is to get down the field as quickly as possible. And he's really good at it. And he's a lot shorter and a lot smaller than Mara is. And so the idea I wanted to show is, men and women come in a variety of different sizes, and they can both be successful on the football field.
Oh, very true. Absolutely true. And even in basketball, I mean, there are some guys under 6 foot playing basketball, which these days, it's funny because back in the 60s, they were shorter. And as time's
Yeah,
gone on, they've just gotten taller and taller.
yeah, it does seem that way. Yeah, it's almost time to raise the hoops.
And yet the shorts have gotten longer for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like on a basketball team, if you're 7 feet tall, we're going to put you under the hoop. But if you're 5'5", you could still be successful. We're just going to play you at point guard.
There's been a lot of politicizing over gender segregated sports. And I am completely all for equal opportunities for everybody. And I think people should be able to do what they want to do. Is it realistic to completely integrate sports? Because the Olympics still has women's whatever, men's whatever. Do you think they should just get rid of that altogether and just have everybody compete together?
The distinction I would make is this book isn't about elite athletes at the Olympic level. This book is about a small ranching community that has a high school, that has a football team, that can barely make enough players to put out a football team every year. So, we're not talking about the cream of the crop here. We're
Okay.
talking about what high school sports mean and what it means to be able to play high school sports. And I played sports in high school. I played basketball and I played softball. And for me, what I got out of high school sports was leadership skills, a mental toughness and a grit a resilience, teamwork, the ability to communicate with very different other girls on my team. And, I got that because I enjoyed playing basketball. And those are the sort of skills that you get when you play high school sports. And I don't know that we should be denying anyone those skills. We're not talking about, there's no gold medals on the line here. I don't know that we need to put a lot of rules around who can and can't be playing these sports. One of the discussions the girls on the team have in the book is whether they would prefer to be playing in an all-girls football league. And they debate whether they should move forward playing with the boys or whether they would actually be happier playing alongside other girls and whether they should create an all-girls football league. I think it's a valid question. I think there's probably some girls who don't mind playing with boys and really thrive in that environment, particularly depending on what boys they're playing with and whether they are going to harass them for that choice or not. But there may be other environments or larger schools or different communities where the girls decide, you know what, I would feel safer playing with other girls, either because for social reasons, or just because, they want to play against slightly smaller players. And I think those are both fine. I think that, different communities have different needs and different girls would have different needs. And I think that we should leave it up to them and not try to police, who can join what team.
Well, I agree. The only one that I don't want to see go co-ed is boxing. Only because I just don't want to see a man beating on a woman in a ring.
Yeah, the optics aren't good.
The optics are just not good, okay? Now, the woman could beat the man down and knock him out, but I just don't like it. I don't know, it's something cultural perhaps, but, you know,
Certainly, we're bringing a lot of other feelings into that. Yeah, no sport occurs in a vacuum.
the one that I never understood why it's still segregated is volleyball. That one seems like an obvious one that men and women could play equally.
I think there's a lot of sports that could be co-ed,
Tennis has been co-ed
Um,
for decades.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, so I don't know. So how long has your book been out?
It's been out for about a month. It came out August 3rd. It's been very exciting. People have been reaching out to me on social media and saying they're reading it or they just finished it. I'm always touched when people tell me that they cried while reading it, but I'm more happy when people tell me the lines that made them laugh.
Is this your first book or have you written others?
It is my second book. My first book is another young adult novel that's about the online fan fiction community and about a girl who writes gay fan fiction about her favorite television show and then has the opportunity to go on a Comic-Con tour with the cast and showrunner of her favorite show. And she's going to use that opportunity to try to convince them to turn the show gay, just like her fan fiction. It's deeply embedded in the world of online fandom and people who become very invested in television shows. I just spent 10 minutes talking to you about my athletic career and how sporty I was. But when I was younger, I also spent a good amount of time on the burgeoning internet, spending a lot of time reading online fan fiction about my favorite shows. So, we all contain multitudes.
Fan fiction, define that genre because there's so many genres out there. I don't think people know what all of them are.
Yeah. It's when you are writing stories about the characters of your favorite show or your favorite movie or your favorite video game or book. And you take established characters and you write other stories with them. Oftentimes those stories are about romance, but not always. Sometimes they're about adventure or, they're thrillers, but they're posted online for free on various fan fiction websites. So it's a really cool community because it's all based out of the love of certain characters and there's no money exchanging hands. It's just a free economy where creatives are coming together and writing stories out of the love of it and other people are reading stories out of the love of it and commenting how much they love it. It's a really great community.
Okay. What genre would you put your book in?
Well, a lot of people, like other girls, a lot of people are calling it a sports book, and it is a sports book. But I also think it's really much more a book about coming to terms with your own identity. It's about gender politics, it's about sexual identity politics. Mara's gay and she has a romance with one of the other girls who joined the team. I think I've heard from a lot of readers who don't know anything about football or even like football that they loved this book and it was able to speak to them in a way that surprised them. So I think, it's both appealing to football fans and people who maybe thought that they would never be interested in football, maybe because they're a group that has historically been excluded from football culture, like perhaps they're queer or they feel like as a woman, football is not interested in them. This is a book for them.
Okay. So it's multiple genres. Or
Yeah,
could be. Yeah. All right. Very good. Well, we do have to kind of wind this down. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
absolutely. I'm Britta Lundin, Lundin at that's .com is my website. And I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find me all over the internet, really.
Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story and sharing your book. Best of luck. I hope it does really well.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here.